I am 34 years old, and for the last 10 years, I have been solo traveling on and off long term. In fact, I just got back from my latest trip a couple weeks ago. That was 7 months in Central and South America, and I am leaving again in a couple of months. So in this video, I want to share with you exactly how I made that a reality for myself, how I make it possible, how I sustain myself, and most importantly, the mindset and the practical tips that got me on that plane faster. Because the truth is, so many people still these days think that long-term travel is so inaccessible. They think that you need to save up for years and years in order to make this attainable, or that you must be a trust fund baby, you're relying on daddy's money, or you have a 6-figure online business in order to make it attainable. And the truth is, I have none of those things, and I have made this possible for myself since I was 23 years old. I have managed to make long-term travel very accessible, and in this video, I've boiled it down to 10 things that I've realized have not only made it attainable for myself, but also for so many people that I've met on my travels. And by the way, if this is our first time meeting, my name is Heather, and in this channel, I love talking all things about exiting the societal script and living a life that actually feels good to you. And I also am a huge fan of unconventional living. So if any of that tickles your fancy, I welcome you to subscribe to my channel. And you can also join my newsletter in the description of this video if you like. Okay. Number 1 is go before you are ready. The truth is, you will never be ready for that trip. And on my first trip when I was 23 years old, I found every excuse in the book not to go. I either didn't have enough money, the visa application was too challenging, I didn't want to leave my place behind, I was scared to quit my job, and so on and so forth. But I was very lucky to have a mom who was very supportive of my decision, and she just told me, you will never be ready to go. Just book the flight and figure it out along the way. And 10 years later, I am still traveling with that exact same mindset. Because the truth is, you being scared is just your nervous system protecting you. It is trying to keep you safe. It is trying to keep you in the comforts of the known. At some point, you have to make the decision to just go and figure it all out along the way. Number 2, you need to cut your expenses yesterday. You need to go through your entire bank statement, credit card statement, wherever it is that you're spending money, and you need to find all of the places that you are hemorrhaging money, whether it's subscriptions, you're eating out all the time. What is it that you are hemorrhaging money on? And you need to reel that in now. I know that so many people say that you're not going to save money by not buying coffees every single day, but the truth is, I now think of everything in regards to what it could get me traveling. So whether it's a coffee every single day, in my mind, if I'm buying a coffee every single day, in a month's time, that adds up to an entire flight. That is how I see things now. Subscriptions wise, what are you paying for every single month that you use maybe once or twice that isn't really bringing you much value anymore? This is another reason why people think life is so expensive. Well, what are you spending money on that you don't need to be spending money on? And take it a step further and go through all your things and figure out what you can sell, what you can get rid of, what can you downsize on. All of this stuff adds up. Number 3, you need to learn how to budget, both right now in your current life and while you are traveling. Because I'll tell you what, the amount of people that I meet traveling that think getting cash out of an ATM equates to free money, those are not the people that are actually going to be able to travel long term, because after a couple of months, they look at their bank account and they realize that they have been sucked dry because they are treating cash like free money. So when you go traveling, you need to set yourself a budget and you need to break that down into a daily budget. You want to be using an app to actually track where you're spending your money and how you're spending your money. And this was something that I did not figure out until quite literally just last year. I used to just travel willy-nilly. I used to spend money on whatever I wanted to spend money on, and it is no wonder that I always found myself struggling for cash only a couple months in. But that was why I ended up finding jobs and volunteer opportunities in order to stretch my traveling. However, ever since I started taking budgeting seriously, it has made a world of a difference. I've been able to stretch my money so much further, whatever budget it is that I'm on. I recommend using the app Travel Spend. And I put everything in this app down to the ATM fees that I'm being charged, down to the 50-cent coffees that I'm buying on the street, whatever it is, I'm tracking everything in that app. I want to know where my money is going. And this also brings you so much more peace of mind in knowing exactly where your money is going. Number 4, this one I feel like goes without saying, is choose low-cost destinations. People who choose to travel long-term when they're younger and they choose Europe as their destination or Australia as their destination, your money is not going to go nearly as far as if you go to places like Southeast Asia or Central America. Your money will just stretch a lot further. I feel like this one just goes without saying. So if you don't have a lot of money in the bank, but you want to go on a long-term trip, you need to figure out where the low-cost destinations are. That said though, I will say Australia was actually the first place that I did travel to long term. However, when I got there, I did find a job in order to make up some of that income. Number 5, use credit card and travel points to book things. This was something that I just for some reason didn't figure out until just recently, until I went to book a flight and I went and looked at my credit card points and I realized I had so many points that it booked multiple flights for me. So are you using credit cards that are actually going to give you any sort of travel benefits? I use an Air Miles credit card personally, and I rack up as many points as I can on my credit card, and then I use that to buy my flights later. So how can you be utilizing the money that you're spending now in order to benefit you later when it comes to booking flights, hotels, or anything travel related? Okay, number 6 is travel with carry-on if possible. Now, I'm very lucky because I always travel to hot destinations. I have zero interest in going anywhere that requires layers or jackets or anything like that. Absolutely not. So I can get away with traveling carry-on. However, this is something that I only just started doing on my most recent trip. Before then, I was always using a 60 to 65 liter backpack. I was always having to pay for those, for the baggage fees, not to mention when you are traveling everywhere and getting your bag thrown on buses and trains and boats and planes, and you're lugging all of that weight around, it honestly gets old really quickly. So once I figured out that I can actually travel with a carry-on, I now use my 35 liter Cotopaxi backpack, which is my new absolute favorite backpack in the world because it folds like a suitcase. It is such a dream to pack, and I use my packing cubes. Oh my God, it's an absolute game changer. But the biggest thing is it is much easier to travel with, and you're gonna save hundreds and hundreds of dollars on baggage fees. Number 7, eat like a local. Now, the first time that I learned this the hard way was when I went to Bali for the first time. And again, I was a lot younger. And when I went to go get my travel shots, the woman doing my shots scared the living hell out of me when it came to food. She told me all of the things that I needed to avoid, which was pretty much everything. And because I didn't have a lot of travel experience, I just took what she said so literally. And back then, social media wasn't a big thing either. And so I found myself eating in so many westernized restaurants, and I wouldn't have the ice and I wouldn't have so many fruits and vegetables because I was scared of them being washed with water, and I wouldn't eat the street food, and I just ate just like westernized restaurant food. And I know for a fact that I missed out on so much of the experience just by not indulging in the local food. Another thing is that the locals know how to cook their food way better than they know how to cook any sort of Western food. Not to mention, it is a fraction of the price, and it's such a fun experience just eating street food. I truly believe like it is part of the experience. It's not something that you can miss out on. And if you want to eat at restaurants, go to the restaurants where the locals are eating. 1, it's going to be a lot cheaper, and 2, the food is going to be so much better. Number 8 is volunteer or house sit or work wherever possible. When I started actually volunteering long term, it really clicked for me how much this can extend my trip months and months and months, and you're spending so much less money. 1, because you're actually working, so you're not going out so much and finding things to do and spending money on things, and 2, your accommodation and likely your food as well are all paid for, so your cost of living can be down to the hundreds. per month. If you really think about that, think about the cost of living right now versus if you were to go somewhere and volunteer, because at the end of the day, you're still taking up that same amount of time that you would be doing working right now, as opposed to if you were to go somewhere and volunteer, you're likely going to be working less hours. The cost of living is going to be so much lower and you're going to get such an incredible experience. So volunteer wherever possible. You can use sites like Worldpackers or Workaway, and those actually are trusted sites that will put you in touch with a host who are looking for workers. And on the site, it will tell you exactly how much work is expected of you and what you will get in exchange. So this is an incredible way to extend your trip, get a local experience as well. And there are experiences all over the world that you can do. If you want to go work on a sailboat or go work on a farm or go work with local wildlife or go work in a school, whatever it is, there are literally endless experiences out there. This is truly the most incredible way to get such a diverse cultural experience as you travel. You could literally become one of those people who just travels around the world and just volunteers everywhere that you go. I've met people who do this. It is very, very possible. Number 9 is travel slow. Actually enjoy the places that you're at. Because the truth is, the biggest thing that is going to hemorrhage your budget is the cost of transport and accommodation. So if you can actually slow down and enjoy the places that you're in, this is going to save you so much money. Besides, the point of your trip is to long-term travel. So you can actually afford to stay in places for a longer amount of time. And the best thing about this is if you do stay somewhere long term, you can also save on accommodation this way, because a lot of hostels, hotels, wherever it is that you're staying, offer discounts if you are going to stay somewhere long term. And this is a really good key piece of advice to know when you get somewhere. If you intend to stay there for a week, maybe even 2 weeks, ask them if they have any sort of discounts in place for long-term stay. And number 10, and this is a huge one that I never did up until recently, is reframe your mind around the cost of living at home versus the cost of living when you travel. Because the thing is, people think that travel is so expensive and so unattainable. But if you break down the cost of living at home versus the cost of traveling, a lot of times the actual cost of living while you're traveling is cheaper than the cost of living at home. Think about it. Break down the cost of your rent, your car, maybe gas, parking, groceries, eating out, entertainment, all of the bills that you pay. Break everything down and look at what a realistic cost of living per month looks like when you're living at home. And then do the same thing when you travel. Use ChatGPT and ask it to budget a realistic month for you for whatever country that you intend to travel to. What is going to be the cost of living? How do you intend to live when you're there? Are you going to volunteer? Are you going to live in hostels? Whatever it is that you intend for your life to look like, ask ChatGPT to put together a realistic budget for you and then compare the two. And I am almost willing to bet that the cost of your living when you're traveling is going to be far less than what it looks like when you're living at home. This is such an important mindset shift to have, because it will make you realize that traveling is far more attainable and realistic than you originally thought. Because the truth is as well is that traveling is not vacation. I get it. If you're going on vacation for 1 week, people are spending upwards of $5,000 to $10,000 for that 1 week vacation because they are splurging. But that is not what you are doing when you are traveling. And the other thing too that a lot of people don't talk about is once you are traveling, there are so many things that you do at home that you spend money on that you aren't going to spend money on when you get there. For example, think of all the subscriptions that you're paying for at home, maybe for entertainment, that you're not going to need when you're there. For example, I cancel my Netflix when I go traveling. I cancel so many subscriptions when I'm traveling because I just don't use them. My car insurance, I put my car insurance way down when I'm traveling because I don't need it when I'm traveling. Depending on where you're living, your cost of living is going to be a lot lower. The cost of food is going to be a lot lower. Groceries is going to be a lot lower. When you have this reframe, you will realize that traveling is not as unattainable as you thought. So, after all of that, let me ask you this. What is the biggest factor that is still holding you back from long-term travel? Because I hope in this video, I actually helped you realize that it is not as unattainable and out of reach as you may have originally thought. Long-term travel is so much more accessible now more than ever before. There's almost no reason that you can't make it possible for yourself. If this is something that you need a little bit more help with, I created a free resource that I think you will love. You can find it in the description of this video. It talks about how to create income online, how you can create income while you're traveling, how to long-term travel and actually make it sustainable, and most importantly, it talks about mindset shifts for those people who are looking to live a life outside of the confines of the societal norms. So with all that said, I'm going to leave the video here. I hope that you found this useful. Let me know in the comments if you are planning a trip in the coming future. If you need any help with it whatsoever, let me know. I would absolutely love to help you out. So with that said, I will see you in the next video.